if General MacArthur drops a atomic bomb.
The free nation face a worldwide threat. It must be met with a worldwide defense.
Hello everyone and welcome to Axis and Allies 1951. Today we'll be taking a closer look at the Soviet Union faction.
Alright, so much like NATO, the Soviet Union is also a sort of time-consuming setup team. Basically, I mean, a good chunk of the Soviet team is still, as you could say, still in its home territory. And that is because, obviously, Stalin wasn't really expecting that the United States would escalate the Korean War. So he is kind of a little off balance. But again, just like everything else, to avoid the clutter, we have several Soviet army markers. We have the German forces, and we have the Central Army Group, the Southern Army Group, and the Northern Army Group. And they are all over here on the Soviet Army Board. And they're obviously, you can see that they're coordinated to the correct size. And then we also have the other Soviet Reserve Forces. As I talked about in the US video, the US, NATO, and the Soviet Union get a reserve force that they can deploy at any time. Coming back over, so in the early 50s, so the reason why the Soviet Union is in control of all of this and not the Warsaw Pact is because the Warsaw Pact still wasn't a thing in the early 50s. The Warsaw Pact wasn't formed until 1955. So right now, so for the game purposes, the Soviet Union has all this and they're just in control of it. That gives the Soviet Union kind of gets them on the level of IPC with trying to fend off both NATO and the United States. Pretty much right after the Soviets will capture southern Germany, they'll be roughly around 60 IPC, but they start off with like 60, they start out with like 56 IPC in the beginning, but that'll quickly go up once they capture southern Germany. And then for Europe as well, the Soviets do get some naval forces. They have a naval task force in the Black Sea, one in the Baltic, and then up here in obviously what would be Murmansk. These are the two Soviet task force. So you have the Black Seas task force and you have the Baltic task force. Now one rule, now this will get further explained in a video that we'll make about some of the special rules that we created. So normally with straits, if you don't own them, you can't pass through them. So like here at the Denmark Straits, and the Straits of Gibraltar. We're actually incorporating a rule from the Global War 1936 game, which will allow the navies to force the straits. However, every ship that passes through the straits can get rolled against and possibly destroyed. So that's sort of the Soviet position in Europe. Again, they're strong at home. They're quasi-strong in Central Europe, as well as they begin their drive to the west to overtake Germany and try and get into France before NATO and the United States can mobilize all their forces to basically turn the game into sort of a seesaw fight. Over here in the Pacific, the Russians aren't as strong. They have a naval force here, and they do have some army units to help aid the Chinese, but in retrospect, the Chinese, the last couple times we've tried playtesting this, the Chinese have always taken Korea during the first turn. So the Soviet army usually in the Far East kind of just sits there and just kind of waits to see what the United States will do as far as with their fleet here and what they kind of do with Japan. So that's pretty much the Soviet team. There's not much to them. Like I said, one of the difficult things about them is that just trying to get them set up right away, because there's so many pieces. Since the Russian army is, the Russian military is so huge, even then, and probably in a later video, we'll show sort of how we determined the force structure of both, not even both, how we determined, at least in Europe, the force structure of the United States, NATO, and the Soviet Union. There was an interesting map that we found online that came from, I believe it was a declassified CIA document, and it was dated 1954, I believe. But so then we kind of just backed off the numbers a little bit to sort of make it fit with the game. But so that is that is sort of the overall layout of the Soviet Union's disposition at the beginning of the game. As always, if you have suggestions or comments, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.